Hello guys, today I'll be giving you a CD collection video. I'll be going from the letter D to the letter J. So let's go ahead and dive into it. We're going to start off with the band Dead by Sunrise, who only has one album, that album being Out of Ashes, which is a side project from Chester Bennington, and I believe members from the band Orgy are a part of this band, but overall it's a decent album, not one of my favorite albums ever or anything, but for what it is, it's a decent album. But anyways, let's go ahead and move on to Def Leppard with their album On Through the Night. High and Dry. Pyromania, which is probably one of my favorite albums of all time. Hysteria, another album that's one of their best. And then we got Adrenalize, Retroactive, Slang, Euphoria, Self-Titled, and that's it. Oh, no, it's not. We got one more. The Story So Far, The Best of Def Leppard. And that's it for Def Leppard. We're going to move on to Deftones with their album Adrenaline. Around the Fur, which is maybe one of my favorite albums of all time. Absolutely love this album. Not a single weak track on it, in my opinion. Then we got this self-titled sampler thing, which came out during the White Pony era. Then we got White Pony. Then we got the self-titled. B-sides and rarities. Saturday Night Wrist, Diamond Eyes, Koino Yokan, Gore, and their newest album, Ohms, and I do have the CD booklet signed. And finally, the last album for Deftones, Black Stallion, or 20th Anniversary of White Pony. So that's it for Deftones. Let's go ahead and move on to Dream Theater, which starts off with When Dream and Day Unite. When Dream and Day Reunite, which is an official bootleg. Images and Words, which is easily one of their best. And same with this album, Awake, another personal favorite of mine. The Change of Seasons EP, and the title track is probably one of my favorite Dream Theater songs of all time, to be honest. Falling Into Infinity, which I think is pretty underrated and kind of overlooked. Sure, it's different, but I personally dig it. Then we got Metropolis 2, Scenes from a Memory. 6 Degrees of Inner Turbulence. Train of Thought. Octavarium. Systematic Chaos. Greatest Hit. And 21 other pretty cool songs. Black Clouds and Silver Linings. Dramatic Turn of Events, and I got the 2-disc version. Self-titled. The Astonishing. And finally, Distance Over Time. And this comes with 4 discs. which is pretty cool. You got the main album, and then you have instrumental versions of the songs, and then you have a Blu-ray and a DVD, I believe. Yeah, that's what it looks like. Pretty cool to own. Now we're going to go ahead and move on to Faith No More. Oh, we don't have anything from the letter E, so we're moving on to Faith No More. With their album, We Care a Lot. Introduce Yourself. The Real Thing. And Angel Dust, which is probably one of my favorite albums of all time. Songs to Make Love To. King for a Day, Fool for a Lifetime, which this album is just awesome. Sure, it's kind of different. I mean, there's a mixture of styles and genres in this album, and I think that's a part of what makes it pretty unique and cool in their discography. And then we got Album of the Year. And finally, Soul Invictus. Now, I'm sure some of my viewers have probably not listened to this band, or if they have heard them, they're not into them. So, if you haven't heard them, definitely give this band a try. I'd start off with The Real Thing or Angel Dust. Those would be good starting places for this band. But anyways, let's go ahead and move on to the next band, Fall Out Boy. Take This to Your Grave. And From Under the Cork Tree. Infinity on High. Folie à Deux, which I think was their last good album. And then we got this album, Save Rock and Roll, and I think this is one of the worst albums. I just could not get into this album. The new stuff in general just does not do much for me, but then we got this album, American Beauty, American Psycho, another album that doesn't do much for me. A couple decent songs, but overall a bit too poppy for my taste. And then we got Mania, which same with this album, a few songs or a couple songs I think are decent, but overall not a great album. And that's it for Fall Out Boy. Let's go ahead and move on to Fate's Warning with their album, Night on Brocken. And Spectre Within. Awaken the Guardian. No Exit. Perfect Symmetry, which honestly, this album and a couple other albums really fight for my favorite Fate's Warning album. I think this album is excellent. Same with this album, Parallels. Arguably their biggest album commercially. Then we got Inside Out. Pleasant Shade of Grey. Disconnected. Theories of Flight. And finally, Long Day Good Night. I have the limited edition digibook, which is pretty cool, and it was one of my favorite albums of the year. It was my second favorite album of the year, with Ohms being on top. But anyways, that's it for Fate's Warning. Now we're going to go ahead and move on to Fear Factory, Soul of a New Machine, game changer of an album, by the way. Fear is a Mind Killer, or Is the Mind Killer, which is a remix EP. Demanufacture, definitely a classic. Remanufacture, which is a remix album. Obsolete. Digimortal. Concrete. Hate Files. Archetype. Transgression, Mechanize, Industrialist, and finally Nexus. So that's it for Fear Factory. We're going to go ahead and move on to Filter, but first I need to move some CDs out of the way so we can actually have some space. Anyways, let's go ahead and move on to Filter with their album Short Bus. Title of record, The Amalgamate, Anthems for the Damned, The Trouble with Angels, The Sun Comes Out Tonight, Crazy Eyes, which I think is the worst album so far, but it has a few decent songs on it. And that's it for Filter. We're going to go ahead and move on to Gray Days with their one album, Amends, or at least maybe first official album. They do have a couple other albums, but I don't know if they were limited in copies or they were never, or maybe they were. They came out worldwide, I don't know, but either way, I got Amends, which came out this year, and overall I think it's a decent album. Not one of my favorites of the year, but I do like it though. And that's it for Gray Days. We're going to go ahead and move on to Genesis. From Genesis to Revelation. Trespass. Nursery Crime. Foxtrot. Selling England by the Pound. The Lamb Lies Down on Broadway. The Trick of the Tail. Wind and Weathering. And then there were three. Abacab. Self-titled. We Can't Dance. Calling All Stations. And we're going to go ahead and move on to Good Charlotte, their self-titled album. Young and the Hopeless. Chronicles of Life and Death, Life version. Chronicles of Life and Death, Death version. Good Morning Revival. Cardiology. Youth Authority. And finally, Generation RX. And I have my CD booklet signed, which I believe was an Amazon exclusive, if I remember correctly. But anyways, we're going to move on to Incubus with their album Fungus Among Us. Enjoy Incubus EP. Science. Make Yourself. But Incubus Attacks. Volume 1, which is an EP. Morning View, which is maybe one of my favorite albums of all time. I absolutely love this album. My favorite Incubus album. Crow Left of the Murder. Incubus Mix. Light Grenades. Not Now, When, Trust Fall, Side A, and finally 8. Well, that's it for Incubus. Now we're going to go ahead and move on to the final band here for this video, Iron Maiden, with their album, the self-titled. Killers. Number of the Beast. Peace of Mind. Power Slave. Somewhere in Time. Seventh Son. No Prayer for the Dying. Fear of the Dark. X Factor. Virtual 11. Brave New World. Dance of Death. A Matter of Life and Death. Final Frontier. And finally, Book of Souls. Anyways, those are my CDs for these letters. Let me know if you have CDs from any of these bands and all that good stuff. But anyways, thanks for watching. Please leave a comment, a like, subscribe. Have a nice day, and take care.